Good evening and welcome to the Trading the Tech Show. My name is Derek and this is iLi Academy. Today is December 14th and it's a Monday. So we're just getting the week started. It's actually been pretty eventful. We had some nice trading kind of going on. It's definitely busy with some other things today. So just kind of peeking in and out at the accounts and at the trades that were happening. Um, Kind of like where we sit right now on most of the accounts. I think we're in a good spot here. So we'll just keep trucking. We just keep pushing, 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 and putting some pips on the board. And eventually we'll try to break it even and start again. So um, we're gonna go through the charts again tonight and just kind of see what kind of direction has set up for the evening and see where we're headed this week. So let's go ahead and commence and do that. I've got my trading view up here. What I'm going to do is minimize my controls here so that I can see my whole screen. Okay, good. So I've got my trading view software up as well. And now I'm also got my MT4 up as well. Last night's show, I did explain a lot about why we use the two, and hopefully that was clear and concise. So if you're confused about that or kind of trying to figure out why are we using two different charts, then definitely go back and check on last night's show, Trading the Tech Show. I do a lot of explanation of what we're doing in the process for how. So tonight, I'm not going to spend time with that. I'm just going to go right into our analysis and see what we have as far as opportunities. Now I'm looking at the Aussie CAD here on the 30-minute chart. I see that all of my moving averages and my rate is above my 720. So that means that I'm bullish as far as my decision. When I look at my daily chart here on TradingView, I also see the same thing. Everything is above our 720. So that means that we're bullish. So it matches. So that tells me that there should be momentum to the upside at some point. Doesn't mean it's going to go in a straight line, but there should be momentum to the upside. Now, earlier today, I did place a buy stop order. You can see that referenced by this green dotted line here. It was placed basically on the 50, sitting right here at about 96.28. And so with time, the rate had actually fallen some more here. So the moving average has moved down. So I can actually drag and modify this order at this point in time. We got really close to this moving average before, so who knows, we may go back and revisit. So what I'm gonna do is just improve my order just a little bit. You can see where when I put my cursor on it, it says drag to modify, and it shows me my little arrows tool there so that I can pull it down. So I just really gonna click and I'm gonna drag. You can see it, just drag it right down to the tip of the 50. And now, I've improved the price that I would be willing to get in at. So if the rate continues on down towards the 200, I may go ahead and improve it to the 100. But right now it's really close to the 100. So the 50 is about the place where I want to have it. I could actually use this 21 if I wanted to be a little more aggressive. It's not that many pips really. It's just a few pips really away. But I tend to use my 50. I tend not to use the 21 unless it's really a special type circumstance. So I wanted you to see that motion and just see how easy it is when you have the one-click trading on your MT4 platform enabled. When you have one-click trading, you can do things like that. You can right-click, place an order, and then you can just grab an order and drag it to where you need it to be. Now let's move on to the Aussie yen. So we see the Aussie yen here is trading above our 720. All the moving averages and the rate is above as well. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick peek over here at my TradingView software. Same thing on my TradingView software. We're trading well above our 720 and our moving averages are up there too. So that tells us that we should have bullish momentum. Here we see the rate had dropped down below the 100 previously, so we could have dropped our order here on the 50. We would have actually been placed in that order, and right now we probably have a little bit of a loser trade just by probably cents, not even 10 cents probably at this point in time. But we don't panic out just because it kind of came back down to test this area. We let it kind of ride here because our direction on both of our charts, our 30-minute short-term chart and our daily long-term chart, the momentum's to the upside. So we don't worry about it. We just stay patient. So if I'm looking to place an order here, I'd wait now until the rate gets down here, maybe closer to this 100, and then I drop my order in on my 50 to buy. Aussie New Zealand, we see kind of the same thing. All of our moving averages, the rate is above our 720. Now let's go over here and check on our trading view, see if that kind of concurs. Sometimes it's a little different. Now, oops, there's my trial notice. Aussie New Zealand right now, the rate is trading below my 720 and the moving averages are below my 720. So my idea is that if this 720 holds, I may actually see this actually go back down into the downward trend. So I'm going to be very cautious about the trade that I kind of have going on now here on the Aussie New Zealand to the upside. Now I would take this trade according to the strategy here based on the 30-minute chart. But I'm in my mind, I'm using that daily chart to kind of filter this a little bit and say, okay, what's my expectation from this trade? My expectation is that it's going to be profitable because the momentum right now on my 30-minute chart is definitely to the upside. You can see we've got a nice separation in our moving averages. We're kind of flattening out across the top here, but our moving averages are still in order to the upside. So that means that there should still be some bullish momentum here. As this pushes up, I'm going to break this even pretty quickly because I don't want to, I don't want this trade really going back negative against me if it decides to move back in the direction that we see on our daily chart. That's going to take over at some point here. Now, one thing I do notice is that it looks like it's breaking let's see if I can draw this here. I don't even know how to use this tool yet. This is the first time actually drawing a trend line here. So kind of looking at this here and oops, how do I get it to stay here? That's kind of, there we go. So we got that to stay. And then let's see if we can draw another one here. Maybe to these two highs. So oops, I got to click here, not used to that. So, okay, there we go. So in looking at this particular situation, we've broken the trend that these two highs kind of set. We've broken that. So we're going to see if we break this high as well, that these two highs set, the first two highs, right? So let's see if that breaks that. If it does, then obviously it's going to be over the 720, which might be good for my trade because my trade is going to the upside. But if it doesn't break that level or that trend line holds as a resistance point for us, then we might actually trade back to the downside. So I've got to be real careful here. I've got my 720 out there in front. I've got my moving averages below the 720. I've got my trend lines definitely creating lower highs and lower lows. So that tells me that this trade in the 30-minute chart, it's probably not going to last all that long. So my whole thing is to break even, get a few pips out of it, and then maybe not really take that trade anymore. I probably have some other trades that I could take that might be better suited for what we're doing now. So now on the Aussie US, I'm looking at rate and moving averages above my 720. And then let me go over here to my daily chart. My daily chart shows the rate is above the 720 and the moving averages are above the 720. So we should have bullish momentum based on the daily chart and based on our 30-minute chart. So I do have a buy stop order out here in front. It was placed on this 50 here. And I can go right back and pinpoint to where it was because, I can see where the 50 is crossing the level that I set for my entry today. So it's right around this 75.47 area or so, but we can see the moving average has actually improved and the rate has actually dropped even more down closer to the 100. So I can take this one and drag it down a little bit and improve my rate to the 50 as well, to where the 50 sits right now. So I'm going to try to do that. It may or may not be too close. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it took so long to move. It just normally doesn't take very long. Okay. So I got it really close right there. It doesn't have to be exact. If you want to make it exact, you can double click on it and then the block will come up, and you can actually change the price here and just modify it if you wanted to be exactly on the 50. I don't really care about that. I just want to get it really, really close. It's not going to get much closer than this. The point whatever 001 pip or whatever it is, I'm not in. I don't care. All right, that's just I'm just not that much of a stickler for it. As far as the CAD yen, when we look at this on the 30-minute chart, we see that we are above our 720 here, right? The rate and everything is above the 720. We don't have full trend just yet because our moving averages are a little bit out of order still. My 50 is still below my 100 here. It's between the 100 and the 200. The 21 has finally jumped over. So we're really waiting for the 50 to jump over the 100, and then we're good as far as a full trend and then a mature trend. But it's going to be very young for a little while. So that's something I put on my docket and think about. But let me look at my long-term chart and just see if it kind of concurs with the direction to the upside. And so far, it does. Now, does this mean because it's going to the upside here on the daily chart, doesn't mean that it won't fall back down and try to test this 720, but we just have an idea. We just know what that means. A lot of people will say, well, it's a downtrend. Maybe according to whatever chart they're on, but according to this daily chart, it's a pullback against the uptrend, or at least the upward momentum. So it's kind of pulling back for us. So for the CAD yen, if I'm interested in taking a trade, I'd really have to see the rate come down, drop below my 50 or my 100 here, maybe even below this 200, and then I'd buy at one of those levels. Maybe even my 21 if I wanted to use that, which is in red. Swiss yen, we are trading above our 720. We have a full mature trend here because all of our moving averages are in order to the upside here. So that means that we should have some upward momentum. If I go over here to my trading view and double check that with my daily chart, I find that it is the same, right? So I've got that momentum to the upside. And so I will be waiting until there's a pullback past this 50 or this 100 in order for me to actually decide I want to go ahead and take a trade here. Okay, we've got to wait right now. Now we had these moves down here below the 200 previously, last week, and then yesterday we were down below this 200. So we could have bought there and had some really nice trades going on. But now we have to wait again. We'll have to wait until it actually sets up for us again. And that's fine because there'll be other trades. And it's early in the week, so don't worry about it. Euro Aussie, we see here we are trading below our 720. All the moving averages are below the 720. And we're pulling back hard against that trend to the downside. So that's a good sign for us. Let's go ahead and double check this on our daily chart. Our daily chart, we see that we're below our 720 here as well. The moving averages are below the 720. So we've got a downward momentum there. So we're bearish. And now we've got our rate here pretty much almost touching the 200, getting up closer to 200. So we can drop our sell order here on our 100. So I'd right click, go to trading, and sell stop. It's close enough. It doesn't have to be exactly on point. It's close enough. So now you can see my sell stop orders there. The rate, if it continues upwards past the 200, I'm going to slide this order up to the 200 because I'm just improving my price, right? We talked about that last night as well, but that's where I would place my order right now. As far as the Euro CAD, we're trading the rate just above the 720 right now, just kind of jumped over. None of the moving averages are on the top side of the 720. They're all below the 720. So we got a little green on the screen there as far as candles, but that doesn't mean that our direction has changed. There's going to be a lot of people who, are looking at this and saying, okay, well, it's an upward trend or it's upward momentum or whatever. That's perfectly fine. But we've got the caveat of looking at our moving average and saying, okay, yeah, it's moving up, but that's against the current trend or against the current momentum. So we want to go out here to our Euro CAD on the daily chart and try to qualify it a little bit and just kind of see what does it really mean, right? So on the daily chart, though, we see that we're above the 720. Moving averages are above the 720. We've recently come down and tested the 720. So there might be some momentum to the upside. It's telling us a little bit different story than this chart is telling us. The 30-minute chart hasn't kind of caught up yet with the daily chart. So the 30-minute chart, once these moving averages start to jump over the 720, and then the rate comes back and tests a little bit of that 720, then I may be interested in buying. But at this point, I'm not going to take a buy order simply because my moving averages are telling me that there could be some more short-term downward momentum. It just has to set up. It's not set up yet. It's premature to take this order to the upside because it could revert back to a move to the downside here. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. So I'd leave that one alone for right now. Euro Swiss, we're trading below our 720. We've got the rate jumped over here over the 200. So it's high up above the 200 right now and all of the rest of the moving averages. So we should be able to short here on this 200. Let's go over here and see on our daily chart if it kind of concurs with bearish momentum. Not really, because the rate is above our 720. So, and the moving averages and the rate, you know, they're just above the 720. So that's telling us that we really should have some bullish momentum at some point here. The moving averages haven't been below the 720 since July. You know, since, you know, from August on, you know, basically almost half a year, they've been above the 720. I mean, it hasn't always just gone up, but that's going to be where our momentum lies, right? So this is a tough one. This is going to be, this is a tough one if you're not trading with a particular strategy or style to it. I know a lot of traders probably would just avoid it because they're probably looking at it going like, I don't know what's happening with this because it's kind of all over the place. And it kind of dips down like it dipped here. And now all of a sudden it's headed back up and it looks a little bit crazy, but we have vision because we have a way of qualifying what we see on our chart. So this one, because my 30-minute is my decision-making chart, I would definitely drop my order here on the 200 to go short. And then my thinking on it would be, okay, I'm going to break this even pretty quickly, add me a few pips and just let it run. Let it run, move the stop loss when you can, and eventually it'll hit the stop loss and you got a few pips out of it and then you go from there. Remember, you're a trader. You're not emotional about it. You don't marry the trade. We always used to talk about that, you know, just on our trading desk. We say you don't marry your trades. You're just there for the moment to grab what you need and you go from there. You know, so you don't have to be emotional about it. It's just you just follow the scenarios and follow the strategy. Right. As far as the euro pound goes, we're trading above our 720 here. The moving averages are out of order, so we don't have a full trend here. It's just kind of out of order right now. Right now, though, the rate is above all the moving averages pretty much. So we don't have a pullback yet. We'd have to wait for a pullback, you know, below the 100 or the 50, or then even maybe this 200 before we'd be interested in buying. But how does that correspond to what we see over here on our daily chart? Okay, our moving averages now have changed, right? So our 100 never dropped below the 720. The 50 did, however, but the 50 today has jumped over the 720. It's trying to jump over the 100, and our rate is above the 720. So we've actually turned back bullish on the euro pound. So when I look at this and I see that we are pretty much bullish, whoops, slide over there. When I see that we're pretty much bullish here, then when this pulls back down here past our moving averages, the 50, the 100, and the 200, I'm a buyer on those levels. Euro yen, if we take a look, we are trading below, above our 720. I'm sorry about that. The moving averages are in order to the upside and have some width to them. They're just starting to gain some width. So our idea is that the momentum is to the upside here. So when I go and look at my daily chart, it concurs, right? We're above our 720, moving averages above the 720. We concur with movement to the upside. So we're going to wait until we get a pullback, though, to our 50 or to our 100 at least, and then we're going to buy on those levels. You know, and Look at what the euro's been doing. Like it's dropped down here below the 200. And when it rebounded, rebounded and created a new high. It dropped again below the 200, came up, would have given us a profitable trade. Not a new high, but a profitable trade. Bounced below the 200 again. If we dropped our order on that 200, we had a profitable trade very, very quickly. So that's how many times this can happen on a lot of these pairs. It can happen 3-4 times in a couple of days on the same pair. And we've got 20 pairs that we can choose from. That's why we don't have to force orders like maybe the Euro Swiss that we saw. We don't necessarily have to force that because we've got trades that are lining up pretty well. Euro US, we're trading above our 720 on this 30-minute chart. Our moving averages are all in order to the upside. So they're creating a full trend, mature trend to the upside. So our momentum's to the upside on our Euro US based on the 30. But if we go down here to the daily chart, we see that it concurs. And it's pretty much at its high here. It looks like it's trying to make another high. So we'll see if it does that. But we'd be buyers here, but we have to buy when we pull down below our 50 or below our 100. Here was the opportune time to do that. So we got that today all the way down to the 200. If we dropped our order here on this 50, basically, while that was occurring, basically 1/2 hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours in, we'd have had a nice trade going on. We'd have a nice profitable trade. Maybe an hour in, if we dropped it on our 50, we would have had a nice trade, profitable trade. And quickly within, the next half an hour or so, we had, a profitable trade. 45 minutes or so, we're in there. Pound Aussie, the pound Aussie is below our 720. The rate is below the 720. All the moving averages are below the 720. They're not in order, so we're not going to call this trend, or full trend anyway. They're not in order just yet, but the rate is pulling back past our 100 and our 50. So we'd short on one of these two levels, the 100 or the 50, we can short there. Now, if I go over here though, and look at my daily chart, does it concur? Yes, it does. It concurs with the move further down because we're underneath our 720. So we did get this little bit of a pullback for a couple of days here, but that momentum may wane. And if it does, then a short here is a good spot, a good spot to be in. So I'm going to right click, go to trading, sell stop, and use my 50 as my short area. So I want to be a little bit away from where the rate is currently to give it room to kind of fluctuate a little bit as it increases back, back towards this 200, because I want the rate to go up as far as possible so that I can actually improve my order, improve the price that I'm going to get in at, because that just means there's more room to the downside. And when it exhausts itself, the momentum should be to the downside. Pound CAD, same thing. We're trading below our 720 here. Right now we're touching our 200. The rate is kind of sitting right at the 200 level. We've passed our 100 and our 50 here in blue. We've passed those moving average levels, so we can actually short on this 100. But let's check our pound CAD here and see if it concurs. Okay, so this is showing us something different, right? It's showing us that the rate is below the 720, but the moving averages are above the 720. So when those moving averages don't cross over my 720, my feeling is that the rate is going to go back into the average. It's not going to veer that far away from the actual average without coming back to it. So I'm getting a little bit of conflicting view there based on what I see here. So I'd still take the short trade here, maybe based on this 100. So I'd right click and basically take, if you get too close, it'll pull your moving average number. You have to be away about 1/4 inch. So if you go over here and you trade and you hit sell stop, it's going to place an order on that 100. If this rate continues to go to the upside, I can just delete the order or improve it. Those are my options. But I'm not going to just jump in here because I don't know what's going to happen, because my daily is telling me something different than my 30 minutes telling me. So I don't really want to catch that falling knife if if I don't have to. I'm not going to put myself in position to catch it by dropping a market order on. Here's the pound Swiss. I had fun trading the pound Swiss today. I made a few pips on that one in a couple of different trades. So, but we see that the pound Swiss is well below our 720. We see that it was up here above the 200. So we could have shorted on the 200, the 50, or this 100, and we would have had a profitable trade today from any one of those levels. Right now, the rate's sitting below our 100 right now. The 50 is even above the 100. So we're not going to do anything here yet. We just got to get the rate to kind of move either above, closer to maybe our 200, and then we can short, but we need it to go up and pull back some more before we short again, right? But that short actually paid off a little bit today. If I look at the pound Swiss here on my trading view charts, I can see that the rate, like the pound CAD, is below the 720, but the moving averages are above. So, I'm kind of conflicted on what's happening there. My charts are conflicted on what's happening, but I have a way of deciding, okay, what do I do from here? I know that my 30-minute chart takes precedence. So I'm not going to ignore my 30-minute chart because my daily told me something different. I'm going to just use my daily as the warning. It's kind of like if you're driving down the street and you see a yield sign. It's not quite the same as a stop sign, so you don't have to come to a full stop, right? So, the daily is like our yield sign. That's kind of giving us an idea, okay, what's going on, or, hey, we need to pay attention here, or whatever, slow down a little bit, pay attention. That's what the daily does for us. The 30-minute is we just go, right? We go on the 30-minute. Now, here's our pound yen. The rate is very, very close to the 720 here. We're above all of our moving averages as far as the rate, except for the 720. So we could literally drop our order maybe here on this 100 to be conservative to sell, right? Now let me look at our pound yen over here. Just see if it kind of concurs with what we see. Pound yen does not concur with what we see. We see that the pound yen is above the 720. The rate is above the 720 and the moving averages are above the 720 as well. So my idea here is that if the rate continues and jumps over the 720, I just delete the sell order. But if for some reason, sometimes overnight something will happen and boom, you'll get that, the rate will shoot down or whatever, then I'm prepared for that situation as well, for it to go back into the trend that had kind of set up for us recently. But being this close to the 720, I have a feeling that it might jump over to the other side and go up from here. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can just look at what it is I've got on my charts and analyze it currently. That's why really going back into time and back testing for me is not really a thing, because, especially for manual trading, it's not really a thing for me because you've got all the information that goes forward from there to kind of help you with that decision. But your decision making in real time is always to the right. And in real time, you don't have the benefit of that information that's coming in the future. So I don't really like to back test. I've never been a back testing person. Individuals that I've worked with, traders and things like that, I mean, we haven't, there's some that have been about it, but a lot of them that have not. As traders, we always trade to the right. We don't trade to the left, we trade to the right. So pound US, we can see the rate is just above our 720. The 100 is down here below the 720. The 200 is below the 720, but just slightly. The rest of the moving averages are above the 720. That's a mess that I don't really want to deal with. Pound US, when I look on the daily chart, though, it is very clear that it's a bullish trend because it's above our 720 and the moving averages are above the 720. So, and they're in order too. So that tells me that maybe this move to the upside is going to have wings. And our moving averages right now are really close. That 100 and the 200 are really close to where they could jump over that 720 fairly easily. So I'm not going to short on this 100 or that 200. I'm not going to place a short that close to the 720. Doesn't mean it won't go down. I don't have a crystal ball that's going to tell me what's going to happen, but I just don't want to be involved in that because it looks a little shady. Right? So now New Zealand CAD, we see the rate is below our 720 here. The rate is also below our moving averages. The 50 is just beginning to jump over the 720. It's just connecting with it right now. All the other moving averages are below. So I'm going to say my momentum is really going to be to the downside. here. But I'm gonna let this set up here a little bit more. I want to see my moving averages kind of get in order here before I short on the New Zealand CAD. Remember, the New Zealand had been going up quite a bit recently. So there had been a long-term kind of, when I say long-term, I mean just days and days and days, maybe about 2 weeks or so, where we had just been rising. Maybe even longer than that. Look at this. Here's the New Zealand CAD. So since what, mid-October, we were on this upward trend all the way through the beginning of November. So more than just a few weeks here. We're definitely on this upward move here. So right now, the rate is above the 720. The moving averages are above the 720. So it's still bullish. There's still probably some bullish momentum there when it catches fire. So am I going to take the short trade here? If this sets up properly, I get some real distance in my moving averages. Sure, it might retrace some of this move on that it moved up. It might retrace some of that. It's actually dropped down some of it already, right? So it's not saying that it can't happen, but the 30-minute chart is my decision maker. So I'm not going to do anything now. I just would have it on my docket because my 50 is definitely jumping over my 720. And if these all can get in order, at some point, it's going to go back and test those levels. And if it does, then I've got an opportunity to trade. Now, the New Zealand Swiss is a little bit more developed than the others, right? So if you look at the New Zealand Swiss, you can see that rate is below the 720. All the moving averages are below the 720. But my 50 and 100 are kind of just lagging here a little bit. They've got to get down here below my 200 for us to really kind of set up right for a full mature trend. So this is something that's developing too. So we're going to have to watch that New Zealand Swiss. On this New Zealand Swiss, though, pretty much we're probably going to be to the upside, right, on my daily. Yeah. So we're showing that, we've had this big move to the upside since the middle of October on the New Zealands. So most of them are going to be above the 720. The rate's going to be above the 720, but now it's pulling back just a little bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm just waiting for the rate to continue. It's going to kind of probably push down a little bit, but then it's going to come back and test that 50 and the 100, and I'll be a short there. I'll be willing to short at those levels. New Zealand yen, you can see we're well above our 720 here. The rate now has pulled down here below my 100 and my 50. And so my rate is sitting on my 200. So my buy would go here on the 100 or on the 50. They're really close together. If you want to, place it on one or the other, it's perfectly fine. They're probably a pip apart or not even a pip apart. So, I'll right click and place an order there to buy. Now, let's see here. Let's go to our daily chart and see if it concurs. And it does. Right? Typically, you're not going to place the order until you do that analysis. I just happen to know what I've just actually seen the chart, so I know what it is. New Zealand, US. Here's another one that I placed an order on today to buy based on the 50 moving average. Now, our rate is above our 720. Our rate has pulled down here past the 200 a couple of times. Right now, we're pretty close to it. So my order here was based on this 50. So I'm going to go ahead and improve it. I'm going to improve this to my 100 instead of even my 50. So see how my order improves? So I'm getting in even at a lower rate, but still being conservative enough. If this continues to trade downwards, I can still improve my order, right? So if I look at the New Zealand US over here on my daily chart, same thing as all the other New Zealands, right? Trading to the upside. So I'm going to watch this. That one didn't pull back so much on the daily chart. So this may actually go back to the upside. I think there's more upside momentum there, especially with the dollar being weak. Now, dollar CAD, when we look at this here, we see that we're trading well below our 720, right? All the moving averages, everything's below the 720. It's dollar, so we know the dollar's been weak. And so right now we are pulling up here. We did pull up here past the 100. And so we could have dropped our order either on the 100 or on the 50 here as a short, right? And if we do that, then we've got some room to the downside here. Now let's take a look at the US dollar CAD over here. And our daily chart kind of confirms the direction that we're looking in. That's the preferred momentum, the preferred direction is to the downside. So we can drop an order here on this 50 sitting around here. This 127.57 area would be our short point. Now let's go over here to our US dollar Swiss. It's kind of going to be the same story here. We're trading well below our 720. That's just the name of the game. The dollar's been weak, so we already know that. The moving averages are all to the downside. We've got a full mature trend here. It's not quite widening out yet, but it's a full mature trend. So, and we've been in kind of in the downward trend, in a downward move for a long time. We kind of set a little bit of a support here. So we'll see what happens, because this is almost like breakout bounce. Well, we kind of got a breakout bounce here, right? We got a new low here. It bounced around, came down, tested that new low, and when it didn't break it, it traded off to the upside. So now we've got kind of this low that was created. Then we bounced around here, it came back down. We're testing it again. We didn't quite break it, and we traded off to the upside. So that's the breakout bounce strategy. That's a whole other strategy that we can do, here as well, when we see that kind of pattern develop. But as far as the trading goes, as far as trend trading, right now we'd have to wait till we pull back past our 50 or our 100. Now let's take a look over here. The daily is going to concur with what we're saying as far as direction. It's going to concur with the downward direction. So I'm just going to move on to our US dollar yen, which is going to also be in a downward direction, right? It's not quite as dramatic as the dollar CAD and the US dollar Swiss. It's a little more demure, I guess, because both of them are safe haven currencies. So we have just a little bit more US dollar being sold than we have Japanese yen. They're buying a little more yen than they are dollar at this point. So so we've got this move down. So the momentum's to the downside, even though it's not dramatic. And then let's go here to our US dollar yen on our 30-minute chart, and you can see that we are trading well below our 720 here. The moving averages are not quite in order, so we don't have mature trend or full trend to the downside just yet, but our rate had traded up here above the 200, which is here in orange, so we could drop our order to sell here on either the 100 or on the 50. And I dropped an order here to sell on the 100. So it's not quite profitable yet, but the idea is that the momentum should be to the downside when this thing gets cooking. So that's our analysis for the evening. So we've been able to go through all of our charts here. What is it, 11:37? So it took us what, maybe 30, 35 minutes to really try to go through all of our charts and analyze them and know exactly what it is that we can do, which ones we're going to stay away from and which ones we're going to take. Doesn't take forever. Everybody probably has a half an hour in the day that they can sit down and take a look at their charts. And you just exercise the discipline. If you do it this way, it doesn't leave you a lot of room for just errors. It really doesn't, if you just follow exactly what the strategy says. In the beginning, it's going to take you a little while because you're being sure about what you want to do. But when you get good at it, 6 months in, you're going to be like, I'm good at this. I can just keep going here. I'm going to analyze it. I'm confident in my analysis. I've been winning trades. And so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Why change a winning strategy? We're just going to keep winning. So that's the way that we analyze charts. That's how quickly it can be done. If you're learning strategies, or if you've learned strategies that have taken you forever and, to execute, and you never seem to get the right answer, then this is probably perfect for you to get your confidence up and for you to feel like, you know what, hey, I can really do this. There's a lot of people questioning online if trading is all right. Can it actually be done? Are traders really doing what they're saying on Instagram and things like that? There's a lot of questions like that because people are just uncertain. But strategies like this will take away that uncertainty, especially for a new trader. And that's what we aim to do. So thank you for your time. Definitely check us out on the Daily Market Overview show in the morning. That's at 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. My name is Derek, once again with iLi Academy, and I'm happy that you were able to attend. Have a great one. Bye-bye.